California
knows how to party.
knows how to party.
California
Knows how to party.
in the city.
City of Coeur d'Alene. That might have been one of the more embarrassing things that I've ever done, but people are like, do they think that they can sing good?
No, disclaimer.
We know we can't. We're not
disclaimer. We are not.
But we're fun.
Yeah. I mean, you guys got the gist of it. You know what we were going
I think
with.
that was like pretty on pitch.
Yeah.
But
People
we're
know.
going to talk about California today if you didn't get it.
Yes.
That was what we were doing.
Yes. We, as real estate agents and longtime locals, have seen, especially Sammy here, has seen the wave of Californians that
forever.
are just, it's like there's an underground tunnel
Yeah.
from California to Idaho.
Yeah, it's like if we were leaving California, they're all coming here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a pamphlet when you move to California that it's like, when you want to leave, here's where you go.
Yeah.
I don't know, but for whatever reason, they've all found us.
And we're going to talk about
Why?
the 6 reasons that we hear from our clients, our relocation clients, and the people we speak to every day, all day. The majority of them are coming from California. I mean, the majority, that's an understatement. 90% of them are coming from California.
Yeah.
So we're going to break down the top 6 reasons that we get from people on why they are drawn to the great state of Idaho. My name is Lindsay Allen.
Sammy Randazzo.
And we are here to talk to you today about the top 6 reasons people are relocating to Idaho at the moment, relocating to Idaho from California.
Yeah.
But before we get into it,
As always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on your notifications, interact with us in the comments, let us know if we crushed it or if maybe we left something out that
We totally missed the
because
mark.
that happens a lot, you guys. We get a little.
yeah. And obviously this is, some of our informed perspective, but there's other reasons that maybe we don't know about.
Yeah.
If you moved here, especially if you're watching this
Yeah.
and you're thinking about moving here,
What are your
first
reasons?
First of all, you've got to reach out to us as real estate agents so that we can help guide your journey on relocation.
Yeah.
We're relocation experts, to be matter of fact, but we want to know why you're moving here, or if you've already moved here.
What was your reasoning?
What was your reasoning?
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Let's get right into it.
Like I said, 6 reasons, and these aren't completely exhaustive reasons. They're just the top 6.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of go from the least cited reason to the most cited reason.
Yeah.
So number 6 is resources. I also feel like in the last handful of years, this has become a more pronounced reason why people are wanting to come to Idaho. When we talk about resources, we're talking about like water, availability of water, power, our power grids, food, shelter, like maybe not shelter, but like water, power, food, those kinds of resources that I think are being jeopardized in California.
Yeah.
I mean, your population is like 50 times the size of Idaho to begin with.
Right.
And there's lots of droughts that have been happening, rationing water, sprinkler systems, like not being able to water your lawns.
Right. That's not like a new thing either, right?
No,
It's
not
been going on
necessarily.
for
But
however long.
It's almost like it feels more pronounced.
Yes.
And then also like, I know up here we've seen the news and we've heard from people too, the security of the power grid. And I know there's a big push to go solar in California. We don't necessarily have that here. It's available, yes, but it's not a big push or an incentive. We don't have rolling blackouts, you know. We don't have such a draw on the power systems here. And I also think too, I mean, obviously the population doesn't exist, but there's also, I think to a certain extent, maybe some more, we've got more dams and reservoirs and things like that. And I think that there's just a greater power resource here in Idaho in general.
Right.
Than you see in California. Yeah, so resources, and then food too. I feel like again, I think this all goes back to population. You know, there's not as much demand for certain things, and we didn't see especially during COVID, like the runs on things. Yeah, we had some shortages on some things, but I don't think it was the same as what it was.
Right. It's like when there's physically not as many people.
Yeah.
Right. To service in your stores.
Yep.
You tend to be able to take care of everybody a little bit better than in like a really high density population area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the questions we get from people, especially when people are coming up here and they're wanting to like kind of get outside of town. They don't want to live right in the city on city water. It's like, well, how productive is the well? Or, how far down is the water table? How many gallons a minute? What is the water resource? And our area in particular up here essentially sits on a massive underground lake that was created, a million years ago by a massive flood out of Montana. And we have kind of rockier soil here too in areas. So like rainwater, we have a lot of precipitation up here. All of that filters down into the aquifer. And so we don't have those same like scarcity issues with water that you see. And I mean, we've just got so many lakes around here too. So we don't have those same water scarcity issues that you see a lot around California. So resources is a big one that we hear from people. So the next one.
Okay, so a big one I think is safety.
Yes.
We have a really low crime rate. Obviously every area has issues, but we don't really see a lot of like really horrible like violent crimes going on.
Exactly.
You can leave your car unlocked for like, not like a whole day maybe, but people aren't like going around like breaking into cars and smashing windows, and there's not a lot of like theft going on.
Robbery,
homicide. So it's just for the most part, it's like I grew up here, we never locked our house. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously a little bit of a different time, but it was fine. No one's coming in to rob you or, kidnap me. But for the most part, we do have like very, very low crime rates, friendly communities. It just feels all around pretty safe. We don't have like a large homeless population in Coeur d'Alene, especially. So just kind of all around, you feel, you can go around and walk.
It feels safe.
Yeah.
I have heard, from clients over the years, I can't believe like everyone's out playing in the streets in these neighborhoods, like we would never let our kids run around alone or walk down the street to their friend's house, you know.
So I used to ride my bike everywhere.
Yeah.
And no cell phones. You just came home when it got dark, and that was fine.
Yep. When the street lights
pop on, that's when you have to go home.
Yeah. And I think too, in terms of safety, it's just really clean around here too. And so, there's a good police presence everywhere. I mean, you see them driving around any event that we have around town.
Definitely.
There's a pretty good presence. I think the community also has a very good relationship with law enforcement here for the most part. It's a trustworthy relationship. And they do have, the community's best interest in mind.
Right. They'll pretty much be at any public event. Like, you're going to see the police here because it's like they're I think it's a big priority for them to like make sure that our community does feel like they're safe.
Oh, yeah. So safety is a big one that we hear from Californians moving up. And I know that just doesn't really exist. That peace of mind does not exist in many areas of that state. And, of course, population, again, we talk about population. If you have 1 million people living in an area, yes, you're going to see certain crimes. We also, I think, are so far north sometimes, too, that we don't see a lot of the diversity that you see in those areas. And so it's just... It's kind of isolated from a lot of things too. Right. And the majority of like anything, like Sammy said, we do have some issues up here, let's be honest. They're mainly based around I-90 because I-90, Interstate 90 runs from Seattle to Chicago essentially. Yeah. And, just that east-west arterial, it's like the busiest east-west arterial through the United States. You see drug busts. Yeah. You see organized crime activity. But that's kind of isolated to the freeways and not really like something you see in town. So, I mean, just to be honest, that does exist. Right. And like Candyland. Yeah. And I mean, again, I like to be honest with the viewers. I think the one thing that when I speak with, law enforcement or in any sort of like public forum where we're talking about crime, the biggest thing that, even our community deals with is drugs. Yeah. And, fentanyl and opioids in our communities exists. And that's really the thing that keeps our law enforcement and our first responders the busiest. Yeah. So it does exist, but it's just like the heinous crimes, like Sammy said. Like violence. There's not crimes, a ton of violence. No, not at all. So we're very fortunate to live in such a safe community. So next thing on the list that we hear from people is a little bit of a happier note, the abundance of recreation. In Coeur d'Alene especially, in North Idaho, we've got between Lake Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, Pend Oreille, there's like, I want to say the stat is like within a 50-mile radius of Coeur d'Alene, there's like 75 lakes. Yeah. And bodies of water. It was like 100 lakes within 100 miles was always kind of like the, like the little pitch. The pitch, yes. Yeah. And we've got, from downtown Coeur d'Alene, there's 5 ski resorts between Spokane, Chewelah, Sandpoint, Kellogg, and Mullen. Yeah. We've got ski resorts. There's all sorts of like trails and whatnot. So like, and I know I'm hitting on winter activities right now because it's end of November, but cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, all sorts of winter activities. And then, of course, in the summertime, hiking to alpine lakes, boating, fishing, swimming, hiking, camping, biking. Yeah. I mean, you name everything. It's like an outdoorsman's dream come true up here, and it's gorgeous. And it's year round. Yeah. It's absolutely year round. And we definitely get all of the seasons. And so, we've got, we throw hunting in there. We did a hunting video. Yeah. So all sorts of opportunities to get outdoors. And like not something where you have to drive 5 hours, 6 hours to get to it. Right. It's like right in your backyard. It's like it could be 45 minutes away. Yeah. So really close in, easy opportunity recreation. And that's a huge thing that especially outdoorsy people from California are so drawn to that here in our area. Absolutely. Next on our list is just the space in general. We're not like living on top of each other. Yes. It's not high-rise apartments, lined up. Living wise, traffic. I know like if you've been following along with us, we kind of joke about, the traffic here is getting so bad, but it's not real traffic. Like it's congested. Yes, obviously we've seen a lot of growth in a short amount of time. And so I think that we're still kind of trying to catch up with that. Oh yeah. But when you're thinking about somebody who's coming from LA, thank you. I'm not
sitting in 2 hours of traffic
No.
to and from work. Like, that is insane. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
When we talk about population, obviously the less people that are here, the more room you have, right? So it's kind of just like almost like a bigger playground with fewer people, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things we hear from our clients all the time too is, you know, we want an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres. And that exists here.
Right.
And it's pretty abundant, to be honest. There's large sections.
Of land,
there's large sections of, you know, our prairie area, North Kootenai County, Bonner County, South Bonner County, where, you know, it's all split into 5-acre parcels. And it's exciting to me when we can help a client find that space and they're like, oh my God, I can't see my neighbors. I can't hear my neighbors. This is what I've been dreaming of, like the trees and the timber and this mountain feel. Like we crave this isolation. Yeah. And when that becomes a reality for someone who's lived, you know, their entire life in Southern California, and to have that like tranquility where like you step outside and you can't hear anything. And it's like you can hear all the birds and like the animals. And I think that there's just something so amazing about acquiring that. Yeah. When that's something that was so foreign to you, you know, where you come from California, where it's, again, the density. Yeah. So the space is a huge draw for people coming up here, relocating. Absolutely. So next on the list, cost of living. Now this absolutely pre-2020 was kind of a different discussion. Yeah. The cost of living, especially affordability for housing. I mean, we know that California is one of the most expensive places to live. Not just for housing. Right,
just in general.
Just in general.
It's expensive to be over there.
Yes, it is. And I don't know how you guys do this, but in general, the cost of living here is much cheaper, much more affordable than it is in California. And housing used to be that same thing. Yeah. I know that in the run-up of COVID and the pandemic, a lot of people were coming here and, you know, traditionally you sell your house in California, you make a pretty good profit off of that. You roll it over into something here, maybe pay $300,000-$400,000 cash, $500,000 cash, get a really great place. Yeah. And then you've got some money left over and you don't have a house payment. Yeah. Or, you know, you put a big chunk of that equity from California here and you keep your payment pretty low. Obviously, one of the things we heard through COVID was I was expecting to get more for my money in Idaho, moving away from California. Now there's some things here in North Idaho, especially luxury properties, waterfront properties, acreage properties. They're not as... It's more of a straight across exchange almost, you know, like people are coming from California going, well, wait a minute. Yeah. I thought I was going to be able to get more. And obviously we'll get into a market update on another video about some of this stuff, but traditionally the cost of living is a lot lower here. Yeah. You know, vehicle registration, gas, groceries, property taxes,
dining,
you know? Entertainment, almost everything across the board is a lot less expensive. Right. And we have a lot less regulation on things. So like when you build a house, you know, there's a lower, I guess, barrier to entry for builders, and you know, everything's built to code, universal code. Yeah. But the cost of materials, cost of labor, the cost of the land is typically less than what you see in California, and of course that translates to the end product and what it actually costs the consumer. So cost of living has always been a big driving factor for sure.
Yeah, and again, as Lindsay kind of already said, that conversation was a little bit different a couple of years ago. I mean, it's still obviously more affordable to physically live here, but our housing, I don't think is much
it's
different.
not-
It's much cheaper than California at this point. Like,
it used to be a huge bang for your buck.
absolutely. You're like,
making
oh,
the
I'm
move
buying
up
a
here.
mansion on the lake in Idaho. And I, was living in just like a pretty traditional home in California. But, when you're spending $800,000 and that translated into this gorgeous property
Up here,
unfortunately that's not how it is anymore. And we've really kind of seen that on a local level. But just to kind of wrap this one up, we've got our number one reason why we hear that y'all are coming here, and it is the political environment.
Yes.
Yes.
That is resoundingly the issue, and it's become far more pronounced in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah.
For sure. When we talk about political environment, we're talking about obviously politics at the state and local level, social issues. With COVID, it was, mask mandates and vaccines, stay-at-home orders,
Restrictions.
schools, restrictions with kids in schools. And so, the political, and California is obviously a massive state. I think the stat nowadays is like it's the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
And there's, like 60 million people that live there or more. I don't know.
Crazy. We
are hovering in the entire state of Idaho right below 2 million people, which is a massive difference.
Yeah.
We, as a state, have very much been a red state, very deep red state for a long time. And there are areas of California that can be red, but overall, the majority of the population really swing that state blue. There's a lot more regulation. There's different fiscal policies, and so political environment definitely is a big draw. And what I would say too, and you may have heard this over the years, I have heard there's a lot of first responders and law enforcement, and even like people that were, city councilmen or mayors, holding sort of like public office in at the municipal level, who have for years, since like the 70s maybe, been moving up here.
Yeah.
Because of that political environment, less government regulation, more conservative views politically, socially. It's pretty much, I would say, the biggest driver that we see for people coming up here.
I feel like especially in the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's always been, I think, a top reason. But I would say, 2020 till now, it's definitely been the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We here in Idaho, and this is definitely not news, it's something that we've talked about in other videos. We did not see, first of all, the spread of COVID in Idaho. We did not see the mask mandates. Kids in and out of school, yes, we had that, but I think there was a lot more maybe choice for the parents.
Yeah.
At least that's how they felt. When it came time for vaccines, when those were rolled out, I know a lot of our more liberal neighboring states kind of were saying, certain sectors of the population had to have it to get into venues or events or to go to work, if you worked in healthcare. So it definitely was something that people felt they needed to escape from in the states they were living in.
Yeah.
And that was a big driver for people moving up here, for sure. So I think that's pretty much the top reasons we always hear.
Yeah. Consistently,
why people are relocating to Idaho. So if you have a different reason, like we said, or if you have a thought on this topic, throw it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We like to know why, our, clients and potential clients and our YouTube friends are, what they're thinking, what they're doing. So throw those comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with anyone you know that might be thinking of relocating and who might need some assistance or some help with that. We do this every day. Feel free to call, email, text us. Go ahead and click subscribe and make sure that you're here with us next week.
Yep.
Thanks
See you
for
next week.
joining.
Bye.